first questions we had was, the MMO space is a very crowded space. So what's set WarHammer apart right now?
Well, I know it's a very crowded space because what's actually happening is the concept of a game being online, the concept of a game having multiple connections and multiple players is becoming more and more mainstream. And so I think the space that MMOs used to occupy, the sort of geek fiefdom of only people with modems and only people who understood online and only people who were willing to put their credit cards into systems, that's all changing. And they're like a 3-generational step. So my mum is hesitant to use a credit card because he's of the opinion that it's probably evil, that it's a credit which is given to you by the devil. And if you buy something on credit, what happens is people will come and lop off your arm when you're not looking or take away your house. I come from the generation that realised that buying anything online means that someone in Albania ends up being able to book tickets to travel first class to Swaziland. I'm not actually too changed, but if I try and buy anything online, I get robbed, and someone tries me and I get identity theft. But there's a generation below me who can't get it through their heads that people would ever want to go to a shop to use that money thing. Like my boy just assumes that buying things online is the thing you do. In fact, he does it fearlessly because he hasn't got a problem. And so those 3 stages represent a sort of what's been happening with online games. Originally, it was the people who knew what it was to speak in minimalist tech speak, who understood why you had to have backslashes on every command, that the amount of data you sent had to be minimalized because it cost a fortune. Those people are sort of like the people who get into bands and really like them, and then the band becomes popular, and they start going, well, I like them before they were popular. They're also the people who then go into I like them before they sold out. They're like early adopters. Then there's the middle strata, which are basically the WoW people. These are the people who, the reason WoW is so popular, apart from being slick and well produced and a good game, is it came at just the right crest moment for a massive increase in people going online and playing spaces. And when they came along, they blew away the online numbers. 300,000 was a solid subscriber number, but they just got millions, and it made no sense. Well, we're past that now. We're now into this next generation where people have got iPhones, they're downloading applications, they're from all generations and all times and periods, they think nothing of it. It's completely natural. For a game to come out and for it not to have any form of online is now considered bizarre. And so I think the online space is actually not growing, just becoming more aware, more rounded. And what does that mean for games like ours? Well, I think that the games we make, asset-heavy games, are more and more going to become they're going to become rarer because they take too long to make, they cost too much to make, and they require too many people to make them. And so what you're going to see is a lot of asset-light games. That's basically what the iPhones do. It's bringing out games that don't require a lot of graphics, that don't require a lot of work, but are fun to play. And asset-light games are good, but they're quite a condensed experience. They're actually quite good for grinding. So that sort of grind mentality of doing things again and again and again. Tetris is a great example of an asset-light game. There's a heavy grind, but still has a compelling nature. A lot of the early arcade games are like that. So Pac-Man is asset-light and has a grindy nature, but has a compelling nature to it. So I think in the modern era you're going to see more and more asset-light online games. You're not going to see as many asset-heavy online games, purely because they cost too much money. And I think that that's how the market's going to diverge. And so you're going to have people who do things like they want to play fishing online, asset-light. They throw the line with their iPhone, they reel it back in by using a little finger, and they catch a fish and they feel very happy. And it's a sort of very shallow, very quick game, doesn't really take much effort. You play it maybe for, I don't know, a total of maybe 5 hours in your life, but you play it in 2-minute chunks. And there's going to be more games like that. Fun, interesting. I mean, imagine a game like that that triggers during a horse race. So there you are at the horse grounds making your bets, and they're off. And at that point you can trigger a little game and play it only for the time it takes the horse race to finish. But it's enough to keep people who are obsessed with horses and betting, and that gives them something else to do. That'd be quite interesting. And then I think there'll be asset-heavy games which have got much more to them. But what I think is going to happen is we're going to see much more time control. So the one thing that the current games are very bad at is time control. They basically work as time sinks, and you're sort of like in MMO time. You slow down, and life's things go around you, and you forget to eat your dinner, and you forget to do your homework, and you forget to say hello to the people you love, and then before you know it, it's 4 in the morning. And while that's great for the early adopters, it's lousy for most people, because most people have to do boring things, like go to bed so they can get up for work, like remembering to leave the house to go to the cinema to meet their friends, or put the kids to bed. And so I think time control of asset-heavy games is going to happen. And in some cases you see that already, where people have like, we're going to do a raid because it takes an hour. We're going to do a scenario because they flip every 15 minutes. And that sort of compartmentalization of, I really don't have time to play it 12 hours a day, which is how the old games used to work. So I think time compression is important. I think being able to give people dip in and dip out gameplay is going to be important. Asset-heavy, rich, environmental, big texture, long gameplay, cost a lot of money, require a big investment, and then asset light, quick turnover, quick gameplay, fire and forget, buy and burn, I think is going to happen. What does that mean for our game? I actually think in the next couple of years we will probably see a decline in asset-heavy MMOs being manufactured, because it's not going to be the big sustainable market of the future, and the ones that are here, they're very difficult to kill. It's hard to kill off an asset-heavy game. The players just hang around. There's a core mass and they work on there. So I think that's going to happen. What does it mean for our game in total? I think as long as we continue to show that we love and we care and we're willing to pour resources and heart and soul into it, then I think our core users will stay. And as long as we continue to embrace the changes in gameplay, cutting down time sessions, being a little bit more open to people who've never played these games, dropping the complicated lexicon that we keep using, then I think we should see sustainable, maybe even expandable growth for our game for a very, very long time. Much like EverQuest 1, Ultima Online, Lord of the Rings, these games, Star Wars Galaxies, these games have been around for a long time. And unless someone pulls the plug out on purpose and is willing to give up on the income it was generating, tabula rasa being an example, I don't think they'll go away.